So it can be really insightful to study story, character development, plot, different elements in stories. And I think that the best way to do this is naturally and just through enjoying the stories that you love the most. Sometimes when you see obvious elements in a story, it can be really revealing. I ended up seeing the Minecraft movie with my kids, and my husband was kind of ranting about what what a cliche story the whole thing was and how little they put into it. But my experience of the movie was completely different in that I just bawled because I was seeing things and making connections as to how this is. And so I've never conscious stories or stories we know are fiction is like the conscious story. I've never enjoyed them more. Not that I spend more time watching or reading or listening to them, but when I see elements and things or things are revealed in them, there's so many insights and connections into what this truly is, knowing it to be a story and not in a way that anything is written off. Just like I was journaling recently and it brought me back to my very first journal when pieces started falling together and it all kind of made sense. And I said I wanted to build a sandcastle. And I understood that everything I was putting into it and everything I was doing was for naught, but simply the joy of creating. And so it's not to say that it's something that you should hold yourself back from in any way, but to go full force into it with no protections, with no guard held up, but seeing clearly for the first time what was hidden before, just like the woman in the red dress in The Matrix. Or we recently rewatched the movie The Prestige, and magic is done by distracting, or like the circus I recently went to, and how you pull off the tricks by having so much flash and showmanship that they're not seeing just how it's done. They're not seeing the mundane things of how it's done. And so that is essentially what reality is. It doesn't show the simplicity, and you can't really say of how it's done, but of what it really is, that it is a story. All through my life, I've had this sneaking suspicion when big things have happened, and when there's been, I didn't see it at first, but some sort of synchronicity. It felt too interesting. It was too much. Like, we're supposed to live in this mundane world where things happen to us by chance, and none of it fit. There were just these kind of things that happened that were so shocking or so sudden that the veil was revealed, and I had this sneaking suspicion that it wasn't what I thought it was, or it was much more dramatic in some way. And just like the sandcastle, and just like putting, if you know it's a sandcastle, right? Like, this is not it. It's not knowing it's a sandcastle, so it's going to get ruined, so we're not going to try. It's still putting everything into it, but knowing it's not going to last. And sometimes that almost takes a forgetting that it's not going to last, because if you fixate on it being destroyed rather than the creating, you can't fully create. And so it's not a remembering, and it's not a forgetting, and it's not the showmanship or the magic trick or real magic. It's not, there is no distraction. In fact, the clues through the story are distractions but you don't see them because you know them to be distractions. You're filtering it through what you think is the most important thing to focus on. And what we think is the most important thing to focus on is ourselves, is a separate self, which isn't actual. And so now the whole law of attraction makes sense, is when we have to have it, when we aren't okay without it, it is completely out of reach. But when everything is great and everything is fine and it's felt as such, it's just attracted. When you don't need it anymore. It's kind of like the gift of the Magi. Sort of like that kind of frustration. If you've ever read that short story about, I can't remember the names of the character, but they're this poor newlywed couple and it's Christmas. And so the husband has this, I'm sorry, my video cut me off there. So the husband has this heirloom pocket watch that's really special to him, and his wife has this really long, gorgeous hair. And so she goes to a wig making shop, has her hair cut off, and sells it to buy him a beautiful watch chain for his watch. And he sells his watch to buy her this really special comb for her beautiful long hair. And so they give their gifts, and they're both just amazed with each other's love for each other, but disappointed. And the divine disappointment kind of is this, in that it will never be figured out. Like all the insights, all the puzzle pieces that click, all of it in the world, it will never really come together. And the first stories we ever heard, maybe Humpty Dumpty, is one of the most profound, in that this is like Humpty Dumpty. The egg, the beginning of it, fell off the wall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him back together again. There's no figuring this out. There's no putting it back together. There's pieces, and there's never going to be one piece on earth. It just already is. There's never going to be that sandcastle that is forevermore this bastion of all sandcastles that's worthwhile. It's all completely impermanent, and that is perfection. It's all imperfection, and that is perfection beyond anything. So stories are not just stories, and reality is not just reality. Nothing is how it seems, nothing is what you believe it to be, and there is no figuring it out. It's also not disbelief in that you can figure out that it isn't real. The book The Gruffalo is really brilliant. You can find it read aloud for kids here on YouTube. Highly recommend it. In that it gets really wild. It can get really wild. Seeing the synchronicity in things, seeing how pieces fit together. But again, it's all for the creation of it. It's all for the joy of it. And it will all kind of be taken away by the waves and the tide again.